Easy peasy. USA won, Brazil won. Who didn't see that coming? No, but really, Greg does get a little bit of redemption today, and the team did really well to bounce back, gain some confidence going into Copa America. So right now, I'm just going to give my reactions and thoughts on the game right after it finished. Tomorrow, I'll go through a larger and deeper tactical breakdown. So let's start first with Greg Berhalter and my feelings on Greg, because if you watch my last video, you'll know that I'm pretty much on the point of saying Berhalter out. But not right now, because we're about to enter Copa America. I don't think it's the right time, but at the same time, I don't think he's the right coach to bring us into the World Cup 2026. And I just want to explain a little bit of my thinking and rationale towards this, because I get a lot of comments about how I love Greg Berhalter and I love US Soccer Federation. The main thing through all of this, and you'll know this if you just watch my other videos that aren't attached to the US men's national team and Greg Berhalter, is that generally I'm a very optimistic person. I tend to see the positives in things. So when we have games, potentially like this against Brazil, where things don't always go perfectly, I tend to see the better parts of it. And I think to myself, there are moments where we look really good. There are things that I hear from players about how much they love Greg that are really good. There are things about Greg's style of play that I like and that we haven't always seen from the US national team. However, there are so many other negatives right now, at least, especially after the Colombia match, where I just think it's gotten to the point where the negatives outweigh the positives. Even saying that as an optimist, it's taken me a long time to get here. The other piece of it that I think personally for me just goes a little bit further is that I've been a coach before, even, it's not a professional level, but at the same time, I understand when the national team doesn't get together all the time, right? You don't have games all the time. So the variance of results is really high. Maybe you have a great team and maybe you're performing way below your expectations because you only get to play 5 or 8 games in a year. Whereas if you were a club team, eventually that average would even out. So I see some of the good things that Greg is trying to do with this team. I hear the things that players are saying about Greg. And I think to myself, if I was a coach, I would want that time to fix some of the issues and to make sure that this team gets to playing at their level. Before I even get to what I think we learned in this game, let me know down below in the comments what you learned. I read and respond to every single comment, so make sure you do that. All right, what did I learn? Now, I think tonight we saw this team playing at their level and at the level that they can be. So that's my first point. What did we learn tonight? Well, this is the USA that we know and love and could see every match day if they played to their potential. I think what's really difficult and what really goes against Greg a lot, aside from his press conferences and how he's condescending to the fan base and press, is we don't always see, actually I would argue that we rarely see the best of the US, especially as a team. We almost always look like lesser the sum of our parts. Whereas the best teams in the world are going to be the sum of their parts or greater. I talked about it in the last video, but we rarely make our own good luck and we almost always have bad luck. Well, eventually that has to come down to you're a good team or you're a bad team. And for a lot of the time, we know we have the players to be a good team. We know we have the talent to be a good team, but we play like a bad team as a nation. We had an average World Cup. The group stage was good. I won't deny that. The game against the Netherlands, I think, was naive and they found us out. And Colombia was kind of the same thing. Now against Brazil, it feels like this US team almost needs that pressure. And maybe I wouldn't even say it's pressure. It's knowing that it's a big game where you need to perform. And Colombia is arguably just as good as Brazil right now, but I think the name Brazil, the yellow color, it just brings something else out of you when you're on the pitch. So for the US, how do we get to every single game being able to bring ourselves up to that level and playing to that potential? I think it's really hard as fans to know that we can have a night like this where, Pulisic puts away, Brendan Aronson puts away some easier chances, and the US is walking away with a win. And even though it's a tie, this is going to be a huge confidence boost going into Copa America. Really bouncing back from that Colombia game. So I think, again, for the US fans and for me in particular, it becomes especially frustrating when we have the 5-1 games more often than we have the 1-1 matches against Brazil, because we know what this team can be and we rarely see it. On Greg Berhalter, I reserve to change my mind at any time, but I will say, let's see what happens at Copa America. I'm currently 1.5 feet out of 2 into the Greg Berhalter out clan, but tonight we saw glimpses and potentially. What I also thought was really weird is that our 2 friendlies were against the 2 teams that we'll likely see in the knockout rounds of Copa America. Whether we win the group or come in second, Colombia and Brazil are probably going to be the 2 teams that we face from Group D. So I found that to be just a really weird scheduling piece where maybe it works in our favor against Colombia because we won't lose 5-1 again, maybe 3-1. But Brazil too, I think they're going to have to take us a little bit more seriously if they do see us in the knockout rounds. The next thing I learned is that Endrick has his own jerseys with the collar. I don't think I saw any other Brazilian players with collars on their jerseys, but somehow Endrick gets one. That's what being a 17-year-old phenom is all about. No, but for real, I think the actual thing to take away from tonight is that when we play with aggressiveness and persistence and physicality like we can, it adds a chippiness to the game that goes in our favor. I think even from the get-go, maybe 5th or 6th minute, Christian Pulisic put in a challenge. He struck out with his leg after the whistle. And I just felt like that was a tone setter for the rest of the game. You risk a yellow. What I always hate in Greg Berhalter teams, especially with the US, is that it's like we're scared to foul. We're scared to foul in transition and stop counterattacks. We're scared to foul when it's beneficial to us. And what I saw tonight is that we weren't afraid to do that. From the jump, we did it to add the physicality to the game and set the tone for the match. But I saw throughout when Brazil was on the break, we weren't afraid to foul, pull back a jersey, and stop the play from continuing. Whereas almost all the time in previous matches for the last 4 years, we never see that. So I will hope that this is a continuation, that we see this going into Copa America, because it's such a tool that is underutilized by this team. And I think if we can do that, especially against teams like Uruguay, Bolivia, and Panama for that matter, are all going to be transition teams against us. And if we can just add that to our locker, it gives us this safety net that we don't usually have because we give up so many transition goals because the quality of our opponents are so high when that happens. So if we can add that to our locker, if we can add the chippiness, if we can bring the physicality from the jump every single match, I feel like that is what always kept us in the matches and kept us competitive from kind of like 2002 to 2014. And we kind of lost that for a little bit because these players are in the spotlight. They're playing for huge clubs in Europe. There's this inherent thing, like you can't prove this, it's not quantitative, but I really do think up until 2014, all of our players had this chip on our shoulders that they had to prove something with every match. I think the players, they are right. They are playing in the same leagues as Vinicius Jr., as Rodrigo, as Rodri. Like, we don't need to add that to our arsenal, but we should because we're the United States, and that's just another thing that can take us to the next level that is different from other national teams. Okay, next thing I saw from this team, and I think it's one evolution from Greg Berhalter that's promising. And what I saw was that we were able to drop deeper and take moments in transition to our benefit. Now, almost always in the previous 4 years, we have played possession no matter what. We have killed ourselves to hold the ball, and we make mistakes with the ball, whether it's Matt Turner, whether it's Yunus Musa. We saw it happen tonight, right, in the matches, but they were fewer and far between because we were more comfortable dropping deeper. We were more comfortable having a line of confrontation that was at the halfway line or even behind it and getting 11 players behind the ball. And when we did get the ball, we were quicker in transition, getting it into the attacking third. And that's where our better attacking chances did come from. So I think it's really hard as a game to win as a coach, right? You're coming into the United States national team. We've never really played possession and attacking football before. We've almost always been bunker 4-4-2 counterplay. If you do that, like people are calling for, then there's going to be this other side that says, oh, but we can't do it like the best nations in the world. Those that are playing with possession, those are attacking with, quick 1-2 passes. But if you do that, and if you do try that, which is what Berhalter has tried to do, then a lot of people are going to say, well, why don't we play to our strengths? Why don't we play counterattacking? And I thought tonight was a good combination of both, a good hybrid of both. And you can play and you can coach to that. And I think that's a U.S. strength, is that when the game slows down, it does benefit us to have possession. And there was actually a moment a lot of the times in the second half where we broke a press, we kept possession, and then a high chance in front of goal came from keeping possession and having 10 plus passes. On the flip side, a lot of our good chances were from counterattacks. So I just think it's about managing the game state and understanding what it's going to call for. It got very open in the last 10 minutes. So for the US, it's not always about having possession. Yes, it's good sometimes. And yes, I think we saw tonight why possession is good to lead to attacking chances. But I also think we saw the flip side of that, where there are definitely moments, especially against teams like Brazil, where you catch your breath, you kind of spring load yourself. And when you get the ball, whether it's from a set piece, there was a corner in the last 20 minutes that Brazil took that Fuller and Balogun had a really nice run with. Those are the moments where we need to think about spring loading ourselves, getting players behind the ball, and being ready to attack as soon as we win that ball back. We saw that tonight. I want to see it more consistently. Now, if I'm going to highlight any player from these two games, it is Joe Scally. Losing Serginho Dest was a death sentence for the United States. If you follow this team, let me explain. If you're not American, and if you're Brazilian or you're Colombian or you're Uruguayan and you're watching this, trying to figure out more about the United States national team, Joe Scally is the backup to Serginho Dest. Serginho Dest was potentially the most important player to how the U.S. played. He is a dynamic attacking fullback that can build up inside and give you an extra midfielder. He's a player that can overlap with the right side of Timothy Weah. He has flair. He was building into a defensive juggernaut. Losing Serginho Dest to a knee injury right before Copa America gave a huge problem to the United States. Not only was your most important player out for the tournament, but now you're looking at one of the weaker substitutes depth that we have. And Joe Scally from Borussia Mönchengladbach has not, while he's doing well at club, he kind of had a regression this year, and especially with the United States, he's never really been able to connect his club form to his national team. I think we saw with Colombia and Brazil that Joe Scally is kind of the case study around why players need minutes to acclimate themselves to the national team. I mean, who had Joe Scally pocketing Vinicius Jr. for 90 minutes on their bingo card? I certainly did not. And I think we saw the difference as well when Shaq Moore came in, and the game looked a little bit different on Brazil's left side. Now, I'll get into this a little bit more tomorrow when I do the tactical breakdown, but I really love what Yunus Musah is able to give to us in attack, and especially as a deep-lying playmaker, because he's able to help the U.S. break the press, but he's also a dangerous player taking on the dribble and moving and shuttling the ball from the defensive third to the middle and attacking third. There are so many moments, and this is a pocket of Musah's game that he has to improve, and he's young. He will improve on this. But if he could just make the right key pass at the right moment, he would be deadly. What we saw tonight was his ability to essentially be 2 or 3 American players moving the ball into the attacking third while putting the Brazilian defense towards their own goal. Dangerous moments, really dangerous moments just from Musah's dribbling ability. But when they put pressure on the ball in that attacking third, he's not able to find that last pass. Now, the other huge negative for Yunus Musah is that the defensive effort wasn't really there tonight. And it's weird because he's played as a 6 before. He has played right back for AC Milan. I know he has defensive effort in him. It could have been, it's a June day in Orlando, Florida. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be sweaty. Maybe he's not in full fitness, but he really left a lot of space and a lot of gaps in the midfield that almost killed us tonight. So overall, really great game, honestly. Berhalter after Colombia kind of went to absolutely should be fired to yellow-red right now. He's on the edge going into Copa America. But I think more importantly for the team themselves at large, it has to give them confidence going into the group stage. If we had lost like we did against Colombia, that I felt would be a huge setback in terms of confidence. Yeah, maybe it would motivate us, but I think now we kind of have this mixture of both confidence and motivation. I'm happy to be one of the haters that, I don't know, Christian Pulisic or Joe Scally or Matt Turner, if you're watching, use this as fuel. I don't care. I want this team to do well. I want us to win Copa America. I want us to go far in international tournaments. I'm not someone that says, I want Greg fired, so I want us to lose all these games. That's absolutely not the way that I'm going to be a fan. Yeah, I don't think Greg Berhalter is the right coach to lead us into 2026, but you're damn right. I want Greg Berhalter to lead us to a Copa America trophy in 2024. So I will have a deeper tactical breakdown that especially looks at Yunus Musa's ability to add into our attack and our build-up play tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And by the way, I've been writing a lot on my Substack newsletter. Part of how I talk about my optimism and how I feel about Greg Berhalter, I wrote all of that and I'll have it as a video later. But if you kind of want to see everything immediately as it comes from my brain out onto paper, make sure you subscribe to the Substack. That is the best way, hands down, to support me as a content creator. Until tomorrow, I'll see you next time. Peace.